Hey everybody, welcome to the Player's Take, episode 188. I'm your host, Justin DeSimone, joined by no one. Montrell is taking a vacation this week, and he is enjoying time with family back home, so I hope he is enjoying himself. He deserves it. So it's just going to be me, you, and me this week. Nice and intimate. You know what? I just want to start off. How's everybody doing this week? I'm doing all right. Life's kind of trucking along, just kind of grinding things out. Feel a little better than I've felt the last few weeks, for sure. Definitely playing some games, which I'll get into here in a bit, and just enjoying things. Playing a lot of. I don't think we've mentioned this on the show. I don't quite remember, or not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we mentioned this on the show. But yeah, me and some of my friends got into Magic the Gathering recently, and Montrell's been resisting that fairly well. I think he's pretty much got no interest at this point, but we've been playing fairly often, like twice a week, I'd say, maybe 3 times a week some weeks, and I'm having a good time with it. I had some people over last night and we played a few games. It was good. I didn't win any of them, but still had a fun time. It's a fun game. It's a very fun game. I like it. I like the social aspect of playing a card game too. The being there in person playing the game, I find very enjoyable. So been having fun doing that. NFL football is back, and I gotta be honest, I am not as into it as I've been in the past. I am fading, I feel like, on my NFL football fandom. I used to be the kind of person with football where I would watch every single game I could, it didn't matter. Like, I would watch the shittiest fucking football games, these like crap ass Thursday games where it was like, Jags, fucking Texans for years or whatever, when they were both terrible. And, it was, I enjoyed that, right? I enjoyed those times. I don't have any regret, being that into football. But now it's just like, I don't know, man. I haven't been watching the Thursday games. Obviously, we record on Thursdays, so I really can't watch those games. Unfortunately, it's just not most of the time. By the time we're done recording, the game's over. This week, I actually might be able to watch if I feel like it. But again, I'm not sure I'm going to want to feel like it. I watch these games and I'd rather be doing something else, watching a television show or playing a video game or hanging out with my friends. It's just like, I feel like I'm missing something with football lately. And I think it is a social element because my entire life I watched football on Sunday with my dad, until I moved away, moved away from home. And then I, kind of watched it with a friend of mine, like a childhood friend of mine, for several years after I moved to Texas. And we would get on like a Skype call together or something, or Discord, and we would both have our, whatever we're watching, whether it was Red Zone or, an individual game on, and we would just kind of watch together, and we would comment on things we're seeing and highlights that we see and stuff, and like sick plays that people would make. But I haven't done that in 2 or 3 years, honestly. And yeah, my like interest in watching it has like completely fucking waned since that I stopped doing that. So I feel like it's just like a social thing for me. I need to I feel like I really enjoy watching football with someone else, but when it's just me and I'm watching it, I just don't get it. I don't get into it the way I used to, And I think the thing that had been keeping me going with it was like fantasy. I do like a dynasty league that I've been in for almost 10 years now, and I think it's like 9. I think this is the 9th year we've been doing it. But I've been hyper invested in that for a long time, and that kind of kept me going with it for sure. But right now I'm just like, I'm not into that either. I'm not having a good time with it. My team is just like completely falling off a cliff, and a lot of my players are hurt early in the season, and some of them are just like, they're just shit. Like they're in terrible situations and don't produce anything, and their careers like in question. It's just like, it sucks. So I'm not enjoying that as much as I used to. I'm still in it. This is kind of what I've been doing this season so far, is I just watch like the early games on Red Zone, and then I kind of dip out after that and just take the rest of my Sunday to do whatever I feel like. So I don't know. That's been a interesting development for me, because I was like a hyper football head, for a long time. But But yeah, other than that, my job's going pretty good. Everything's fine. Um, you know, same stress level as usual, but I am chilling out a little bit lately on it, somewhat. So I'm not feeling as crazy there. And yeah, video games and having a great time with my wife, hanging out with her, and my cat. So things are good in the home as well. And yeah, that's about it. So let's get into the show, everybody. So this is not a Justin's Life show, but I don't know. I don't get to do this, just me and you guys super often. So, I figure and when me and Montrell are on, we kind of chop it up a little bit at the beginning, but we don't get like super deep on what's going on with our lives. So, when it's just me and you guys, I like to give a little bit of an update here. So, but let me get into the rigmarole here. So, this is our weekly show where we talk about video games, video game news, and other topics pertaining to video games. We post at 6 a.m. Central Time on Fridays on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast app of choice. And if you'd like to send us a question, you can do so at The Players Take on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. All right. And I'm just going to get right into it, guys. So, first thing I want to do is do a correction from last week before I get into what I've been playing. We were talking about Halo Infinite and their Battle Pass season going on forever, and I misspoke. I didn't know this, but I knew their current season had been going on for a while. And I was correct about that. I just got the season number wrong. So it's actually season 2 that has been going on forever, not season 1. Season 1 ended, I believe, in May. And then season 2 started. So that was 6 months after the game came out. Season 2 started. I believe. Is it May? Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, it was around May. So I think it's been going on for 4 months, and their current projection on their roadmap for season 3 coming out is 6 months from now. I believe is March, which means that the Battle Pass season for season 2 will have gone on for 10 months at that point, which is a very long time for a Battle Pass season to go on. 6 months is probably the longest I think a company could realistically stretch a battle pass, but most battle passes do not go longer than 3 months generally in most games. Apex is like that. PUBG I think is like that as well. I think Fortnite's the same way. So it is atypical for a battle pass to go 6 months, let alone 10 months. 10 months is an extreme stretch, and so I don't want to go any further into that. We already talked about that last week, but I did want to correct that. That was my bad on that. I don't want to misrepresent what's going on with Halo there. So yeah, games. So let's get into what I've been playing here. So most of the same stuff this week. Apex, not much to say there. We have still been playing it pretty frequently. Still having a good time with it. I do think the game balance is in a good place for the characters and the guns, for sure. The hacker and issue it's funny actually. The hacker issue feels like it's like lessened, but the Smurf issue has taken its place and is like a fucking epidemic in this game. Where it's just Smurf City in every fucking game I play, no matter whether it's ranked or unranked. It does not matter. I am seeing level 10 accounts that are in my lobbies absolutely obliterating me and my team. Like, it's just become such a ridiculously annoying problem that I don't really know what Respawn can do about it. This is something that would require very drastic measures, I believe, to deal with. And I don't think any game company would be willing to do what's necessary on that front. So yeah, still having fun with Apex. Still playing Legends of Runeterra as well. Having fun with this. I've gotten to the point where my collection within the game, I am starting to actually make significant progress towards having a lot of cards. Like yesterday I used like all of my wild cards that they give you, like common, uncommon, rare, legendary, or champion rather, wild cards, and then most of my shards to kind of buy a bunch of cards that I wanted for archetypes that I want to try, for some of the more meta decks that I want to play with and stuff like that. So I've made significant progress now to the point that I'm not like, I think most of the cards that I have left to get are cards that I don't necessarily care that much about. I'm sure there's plenty of good cards in there, but I've gotten most of the shit for most of the major archetypes that I am personally interested in. So the rest of it now is just like collecting purposes at this point. So yeah, I'm enjoying the game though. The Path of Champions continues to be very fun for me. I really like that mode a lot. I think it's super well designed. There are times where I get really frustrated with it, where the enemy AI deck has this perfect setup that just fucks you over in a very specific way, and you lose and you have to start all over again. That can be frustrating, but it's part of the experience. Sometimes your deck's just not good enough to deal with the challenge that the game gives you. So, don't have a problem with that per se. It's just it's just game frustration when you're playing a game and you lose progress. But I have not dabbled in ladder at all, or playing against human players at all. Still, I'm still not. I don't know why. I'm just not interested in it right now. I think it's because I'm still exploring the Path of Champions, so I have content there to keep me going. And I don't really feel the need to dabble into the playing against people aspect of the game quite yet. So, but I'm getting closer to that point. I have decks that I'm ready to play with. And that should be competitive for sure against people. So I'm sure I'll dabble in that soon enough. And then, so the major game I've been playing is The Last of Us Part 1. I actually finally started playing it this past week, and I haven't made significant progress. I'd say I'm maybe 5 or 6 hours into it. I am in the Bill's Town section of the game. Which is pretty early in the game. It's like chapter 5 or 6 or something like that out of, I don't know, 16 or 17. So I'm not like super deep, but I'm also not like super early either anymore. So, I'm going to talk about this one pretty deep here, actually. I would be interested. I do kind of hope Montrell gets it at some point, but I guess the first thing I'm going to get into is the price tag, right? So it's $70, and they're charging $70, which is more than Nintendo charges for their new games. It's more than Microsoft charges for their new games, and it's more than anybody on PC charges for their new games. So Sony is kind of on this island with the $70 price point that I feel is starting to expose them a little bit with people, with consumers, where they're kind of getting I think they're getting a little fed up. And this game, The Last of Us Part 1, this quote remake, whatever you want to call it, is kind of exposing all of that very specifically. It's kind of shining a spotlight on it, because not only is Sony asking more for their games in general, $70, which is $10 higher than everyone else, they are also pushing the envelope with this specific game, because everybody immediately questioned the need for this when it was first revealed. And I've defended it. I've said this over and over leading up to this game's release, that The Last of Us, the original game on PS3 and even the PS4 remaster, is a dated game. It looks dated and it plays dated. Updating this game has merit, absolutely, to me. And my two criteria, remember, for whether a remake is worth it or not, are A, does it transform the game significantly in some way, or B, does it make the game significantly better? And The Last of Us Part 1 is teetering for me right now on the edge of neither of those things being true. It definitely does not transform the game. That's absolutely not the case here. But does it make the game significantly better? That is going to be highly subjective to you and how you feel about The Last of Us. I'm going to get into my feelings specifically here in a bit. I'm going to talk about all the gameplay and all the changes and everything. But yeah, I just want to reiterate that I think the concept of this game being remade is not a bad idea. Based on the age of it and the console it came from, right? This was originally a PS3 game. I know people think 2013 wasn't that long ago in video games, but it actually was. 2013 games that were PS3 made for PS3 they just don't hold up for them. A lot of them do not hold up to modern day standards. And I think The Last of Us Part 1 specifically for me has that problem, where this game, so this is the issue. Remember, we've been talking about this for weeks, right? And Montrell didn't feel it was justified, and I felt like it would have been justified if they overhauled the entire package, right? Visuals and gameplay. And Sony and Naughty Dog had mentioned that they were going to overhaul gameplay, but they didn't. Looking back at it, after the fact, they were never very specific about the gameplay updates, and they were extremely vague. They never said they were making the gameplay like part 2, and I think that was an impression that we got at some point that we were incorrect about. And so this game does have gameplay updates, but not in the way that I was hoping for. And so those gameplay updates basically are that they added a lot of the accessibility features that are in The Last of Us Part 2 into Part 1, and that is phenomenal stuff. It's not just like colorblind modes and things like that, things for gamers that are impaired in some way. It's accessibility options like that run the gamut. You can make this game play like whatever way you want. If you want auto aim to be on, you want to make like the aiming be an automatic thing, you can do that in this game. If you want melee to like, if you want to change the way melee works, where you hold the button rather than press it, for doing a combo on an enemy, you can do that. You can do all sorts of things like that modify the gameplay in very little ways that change the way it plays, and you can do this all in concert with each other, right? It's not like these things are mutually exclusive from each other. You can do them all together at the same time. So I think this game, on that front, Naughty Dog has set a bar with these accessibility options, and they did it with Part 2 when that game came out. These things are phenomenal, and it's something that I wish every video game had the bandwidth to add. Unfortunately, I know that is not realistic. These things are a product of Naughty Dog, the studio Naughty Dog, the budget that they get, the number of headcount that they have, right? Most studios, like the large majority, do not have the bandwidth nor the budget to kind of add this stuff to their games. I hope, though, that publishers take note of this stuff and endeavor to give their teams the space to add some of this stuff to their games. It doesn't need to be as exhaustive as Naughty Dog is here. Like, Naughty Dog is crazy with this, dude. Like, there's so much shit that you can do with this game. It's wild, and I love it. It's awesome. I don't use any of it personally, but I love that it's there, right? And maybe on subsequent playthroughs, I'll mess around with some of it, to kind of modify the game and make it more enjoyable for me. I want the more like base experience, like that they curated and intended for the game to have. So that's my point of view, or that's how I'm playing through it right now. So, but I love that they have these options here, and I hope other publishers do start to kind of trickle these things into their games, because I think it's very valuable for the medium. I think allowing people to play games in whatever way they want is great. I know some of you are gonna say, what about Dark Souls and the difficulty shit and Sekiro and stuff like that. That's not what this is, okay? That's not necessarily what this is. And again, if From doesn't want to do that, they don't have to do that, right? They want the game to be played in this one specific vision. That is fine. Naughty Dog doesn't have that same criteria for themselves. So I would love to see this stuff in more games. That doesn't mean it's mandatory, right? If developers don't want to do it, they don't have to do it, okay? And I'm not going to hold that against them. So anyways, back to the main point. So these accessibility options are great. However, they're not gameplay altering in the sense of like mechanical system changes and things like that update this game's gameplay to be more modern. That is where this remake totally disappoints me and fails really bad, is the gameplay. They did very little to change the original 2013 games gameplay, the gunplay and things like that. Yes, they've smoothed certain things out. I'm sure they've made behind the scenes updates to make the game feel better to play, but it's not in the sense of like they didn't make the game better in the way that The Last of Us 2 is better than The Last of Us Part 1, right? The Last of Us Part 2 for me is like a giant fucking leap in terms of gameplay improvements compared to the first game. And I'm actually planning on playing Part 2 after I finish Part 1, because I want to experience that game again with this being fresh now and see those differences and be able to speak to those differences very specifically. Because I don't remember them all off the top of my head. I just remember my feeling about that game overall is that the gameplay was like way fucking better than part one. And this is the thing playing part one right now is the gameplay is just not like the gunfights are not really fun. Moving around the environment is not really fun. The searching for supplies and shit is not really that fun. It's very very samey throughout the game, and there's very little variation to it, and it's a lot of just the same of just opening drawers, going inside buildings, walking around, waiting to hit the triangle button, moving ladders and planks so you can run across them and shit like that. So the gameplay is just frankly not, in my opinion, not varied enough for the justification of this $70 price tag, because it's not only the gunplay and the movement and the kind of environmental stuff that you're doing in the game, it's also the level design in this game is so dated, dude. It just feels like a 2013 game in the sense of how kind of constrained it is. The environments are extremely small. They're very, very linear. You are funneled through them extremely hard. And I think that is okay. That doesn't make the game bad. I just think the bar that part two set for environments for their games going forward kind of makes this stand out to me in the sense that these environments are they just pale in comparison, and for a 2013 game, they're phenomenal, right? Like some of these areas, they're not like super small. There are decently sized areas where there's multiple buildings you can go in and you can have these side conversations and there's all this stuff you can find, and things like that. But it's just not as, the breadth of it is not anywhere near part two's level design for me. Part two's level design is just fucking phenomenal, in my opinion. So yeah, that's like the big element that's really sticking out to me is the level design just feels really dated to me, and that's where I understand why Naughty Dog didn't overhaul the gameplay, because I think if they had shoehorned some things from part two into this game, that would have forced them to have to redesign levels in big ways. Like if you were able to go prone, they would have to change the way they put things in the environment, where they put things in the environment, some of the car models and stuff like that, because the way the car models are today, like they're not built so that you can go prone under them, like most of them. So, and the rest of the environment is not built for going prone either. You can't go under tables, desks, things like that. And there's just not a lot. So they would have had to do a significant amount of work to that. I'm just disappointed that they didn't actually take the time to do it. I think this game frankly deserves a full-on remake where they remake. They don't need to change the story at all. They don't need to change where you go. They don't need to change the characters. They don't need to change the dialogue, the voice acting, or anything like that. All that stuff is like perfect the way it is today. That's where this game succeeds, and I'll get into that in a second. But like redesigning the levels, the areas you go to, and the maps that you are on, and how big they are, and how many enemies, and the encounters, and things like that, and that stuff, I think could sincerely use a significant overhaul. And I hope I'm like kind of frustrated because it feels like Naughty Dog went halfway with this, and I think they're going to be satisfied with this for a long time. Probably they're not going to touch this game again for a very, 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 very long time, meaning that full-on remake I'm probably not going to get, honestly. And I think this game could sincerely benefit from that, but that would require honestly though, I do want to say I get it. I get why they didn't do it, because if they expand the levels, right, well, suddenly the pacing's off. All the dialogue that's in the game is designed for these smaller environments, right? You can't just like make the environments bigger and don't change any of the dialogue, right? They would probably need to, voice new lines, add some more stuff that happens, interactions and things like that. It's a big undertaking. It would be like making a whole new game for them, basically. So I get why they didn't do it. I'm just frustrated. I think it's really unfortunate, though, that they decided to do it this way and then A, charge $70 for the game, and B, kind of market the game in a really vague way, where they kind of made it sound like there would be gameplay improvements when there really weren't gameplay improvements. So that's where I come down to being disappointed with this. Is all of that aspect to it. I don't think this is worth $70. Now, do I regret paying $70 for it? No. I'm having a good time. I like this game. I'm enjoying it. I like The Last of Us Part 1. Do I think it's the greatest game of all time? No, I don't. But does that mean it's a bad game by any stretch of the imagination for the fact these gameplay changes aren't there? No, it still plays fine. It's a perfectly serviceable third person, shooter. And so it's not like it's crap, right? So I'm okay with that. I'm okay that I paid $70. Do I think it's worth $70? No. I think for most people, unless you're like a Last of Us diehard, like absolute diehard, probably wait for this game to price drop or wait for it to come on the PlayStation subscription service, down the road, which I'm sure it will in then like 6 months or something like that. That would be my suggestion to you guys. But dude, if you love The Last of Us, this is where I'll get into the kind of the good pieces, right, of this. If you love The Last of Us and all this gameplay stuff that I'm talking about, you don't care about, you don't have that same opinion I do about that you don't feel like it's dated, it still feels fine, then I think this game is very much worthwhile for you, because the graphical overhaul of this game is insane. What they've done with this game, it looks so much better. And it is basically a modern contemporary game in terms of its aesthetic and like graphical fidelity. And that is a massive upgrade, and that cannot be understated how valuable that is to a game that is story heavy, because I'm not just talking about the way the game looks, right? I am talking about animations, character animations, facial animations, things like that. If you go watch some side by sides of this game versus the original game, especially the facial animations, it is fucking wild. Like how much more emotion there is in the characters' faces and the way they move and their kind of mannerisms and things like that. That stuff, I think, adds to the gameplay experience for the story in a very big way, because you are seeing things now in characters' facial expressions that weren't there in the original game, and it kind of tells you a little bit more about what's going on than just the spoken dialogue. It like you can see kind of the underlying emotions of some characters a lot better. So I think that portion of it is really worth it, and that's why I'm enjoying it a lot, because re-experiencing this story with these graphics and these improved animations and things like that, and the better looking environments, I think it's extremely worth it. I think it's extremely worthwhile. So in that regard, so your mileage is going to vary on this. If you're not a big Last of Us fan, I would definitely wait for this. But if you're a huge Last of Us fan, I think you will enjoy playing this game again with the updated graphics and the updated animations and facial animations and things like that, for sure. So yeah, enjoying that. I'm planning on that's going to be my main game right now until I beat it, and then I'm probably going to play part 2 again as well and beat that. And then so that's all I'm really playing right now. But I am thinking about kind of what's my plan right now, right? Because I wanted to play Tunic, and I still do. And I think I have about a month and a half until God of War and Tactics Ogre come out. So I feel like I need to fit something that isn't The Last of Us in there, and Tunic might be it. So I don't know. I may spin up my Game Pass subscription that I have sitting on Amazon that I bought like two years ago, or whatever, and maybe spin that game up potentially, because that I think is going to be a very enjoyable experience. So other than that, that's all I'm playing. Not really thinking about any other games right now. I haven't played Warhammer 3. I kind of lost interest in that pretty quickly here. I feel like I need to like get out of the prologue and just play a campaign. Like that might be my option, my main option. So, but all right, that's enough for what I've been playing. Let's just get into the news here. There isn't a lot of news that I want to go over. There's I kind of want to save some stuff for when Montrell is back next week. But there are a couple things I'm going to talk about here, and one of these I may talk about with Montrell next week, actually. Anyways, but the first one I want to talk about is this happened late last week. Is GTA 6 had a massive leak, and actually, hold on, I'm going to take a drink here. Got to remember to pace myself when I'm on these solo eps. All right, yeah. So GTA 6 and Rockstar had a massive leak that happened last week. A ton of basically what is like pre-alpha. I don't even know if I call it pre-alpha footage of GTA 6 was leaked online, and this showed very significant stuff about this game. This is very, very much real. I mean, the industry's reaction to it, and just there was a lot of confirmations. These things are real. This was very real footage of this game. So this is what, you know, this is the game as it was. Now, this footage, I do caveat here. This footage is from like 3 years ago, I think, or so. Very, very early in GTA 6 development. So, excuse me. There was kind of a lot of controversy that came out of this that I'll get into in a second. So I just want to put it out there, though. This is old footage. This is not how the game looks now. This is not how the game looks after years of development. This is like early stages, like concept stages, basically. They're trying to conceptualize what the game is, essentially. And so the big thing that came out of this, though, that showed was they were playing a female protagonist in the footage where supposedly you can play. So basically, you pick at the beginning of the game if you want to be male or female, and there's two characters. Those two characters are both in the game, regardless of which you pick. It's just if you pick the male character, the female character is your partner, and that is like your sister. So these are like sibling characters, I believe. That's like the basis for this. And this will be the first time you'll be able to play a female character in GTA, which that is significant. But also, I think it's cool that you will have somebody with you in this game, you know, basically at all times with your sibling. And they kind of showed the videos I saw. There was only one that I really saw a lot of that I actually got to watch. Was basically they were doing a heist of like a diner, basically. And police showed up, and then they stole the car. They stole the police car and drove away. And yes, this looked extremely rough. But so this is where I want to get into the controversy that kind of came out of this. People were kind of losing it over this footage, saying that the game does not look good or whatever, blah blah blah. And it just goes to show that, like, you know, it's kind of a reason Montrell and I started doing this show is the general population of game fans just do not understand the way game development works, dude. Like, Rockstar didn't voluntarily show this footage. They would have never shown this footage. You don't show this kind of footage, you know? They would have never voluntarily shown this footage, and this is not the way they would have revealed their game, GTA 6. This is one of the biggest games that will probably be released in the next 10 years, you know? They want to make sure they get the reveal of that right, you know? So this, like, ruined all that for them, right? And people getting on them for the way the game looks or the gameplay or the way it's playing or whatever. Like, guys, this is conceptual gameplay footage. They're literally just like creating a proof of concept. It has nothing to do with function or anything like that. They're just trying to demonstrate. It's like demonstrating what the game will kind of be at a very basic base level, you know, give you enough so you can get the gist of it, right? And that the fact that so many people don't understand that and are like starting to judge this game and judge Rockstar and say that, oh my god, I can't believe GTA 6 is going to be like, dude, like are you kidding me? Come on, this is Rockstar, guys. Like, this is like ridiculous. This shows how little these people understand about this shit. Is like, this is Rockstar. They make some of the most polished video games in the entire industry, you know? They're not going to release a game that looks like this. They're not going to show a game that looks like this. Like, it's like so clear too. There's just like placeholder assets everywhere. There's like text boxes of code, like code boxes, like popping up over characters' heads of like reactions that they're having because they don't have animations yet for the characters to do the thing that the code says they're supposed to do. It's like, it's so obvious that this is like not even remotely close to a finished state. This is not presentable. This is not the intended presentation of this at all. And yet people are like losing their minds about it. So I don't know. I just find it a little irritating. There was some kind of fun stuff that came out of it though, where other devs were defending them. Of course, was defending Rockstar and the state of this video and kind of showing builds of their games from the same similar time frame, very early in the game's production state. And there was like one from there was a developer from Sony who showed an early build of Horizon Zero Dawn, and like it was literally just like a blocky. They showed like a Thunderjaw. It's just a blocky polygonal, goofy ass looking model. It's not. There's no form to it at all. It's just like these just blocks basically put on each other. It's not a finished creature in any way. And then they also, that same person also showed God of War early on, the fight against Baldur in that game early in the game. And there's like no environment. It's just like there's no ground either. It's just like kind of a grid or whatever. And there's like some random trees, and the character, the boss you're fighting, doesn't have a fully built model either. It's like the music's not playing. It's just like, come on, guys. Like, what do you think a game comes out of the like they start working on a game and they're instantly have finished assets and like finished environment? Like, come on. It's ridiculous. So it's unfortunate that this happened to Rockstar and GTA. This is like one of the most insane leaks we've ever seen for a game before, but it happened. It was real. Honestly, if you I don't see much value in looking at this unless you're very interested in game dev and like kind of the way games are made and what like an early game would look like. They aren't finished products for a very, 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 very long time. So, all right. So that's our first piece of news. The next one, this was another controversy, and this one actually happened today, is VideogameDunkey. So he is an extremely popular YouTuber on YouTube. He has like, I believe, like 7 million subscribers or something like that. Like, he is huge, and I enjoy his videos. He's very funny. He's got a very funny video style and everything like that, and the way he talks about games is very, very like comedic and interesting. But he announced today that he is creating his own publishing company, and it is specifically for indie game publishing, and it is called Big Mode. Him and I believe his wife Leah are going to be doing this venture together. And his announcement video was short. It was like 5 minutes. It was kind of in the Dunkey style. It was very like, I took it as very jokey, right? He was like kind of like pumping himself up. He's like, through years and years of doing video reviews for video games, I know my shit, right? I can separate the wheat from the chaff, that kind of thing. And it was very like hammy though. I don't think he was being 100% serious with it, which that in and of itself, maybe there's a kind of a conversation there. Like, I mean, it was kind of an advertisement for a new company of his. Maybe he should have taken it a little more seriously, but you know what? I don't mind him sticking to his personality on his channel. Right. So I'm going to take another drink here. Oh yeah. There we go. Get that nice swallowing sound effect in for you guys. So yeah, this happened today, and I just saw an absolute ton of personalities, journalists, like going at Dunkey and kind of criticizing him for this, saying that he doesn't have the experience level, required to do something like this. Like, he doesn't know how game dev works. He's just a critic on YouTube, blah, 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 stuff like that. And I found this whole commentary very, very strange, coming from a community of people, specifically YouTubers and other personalities of that sort, who are built from the ground up on not knowing what they're doing. When they all started on YouTube and when podcasters started podcasting, they weren't experienced in that. How do you think they got to where they are? They started doing it. They did it shitty, like poorly, for a long time, and then they got better and they figured it out, and then they became professionals to a degree. to a certain degree. And that's kind of how it goes. They didn't like go fucking work at a media company or get a degree or something. Like I don't understand what the thought here is with Dunkey, that he has to like go prove himself at like a game company or something to launch his publishing company. He is offering indies money and, you know, resources of his in order to help them develop their game and fund their game and make their game, make their vision for what their game is going to be. So I found it weird that there was so much criticism of him here. And honestly, what my brain went to with this pretty much instantly was like straight up, I'm going to be honest, maybe this is a little bit mean, but it was mostly that I just think these people might be jealous that he is successful enough to have the money to be able to do this in a conceivable way on his own is a very impressive thing. And not many, I doubt very many content creators have enough success to be able to do this kind of thing. So I don't, that's honestly where my head goes. I think people are jealous that they aren't as successful as he is here and are kind of lashing out as a result and trying to take him down a peg. Because it doesn't make sense. Dunkey's like he's not a bad dude. He's always been a kind of a like a good person within the game, you know, review critique realm. He's had a good voice. He's funny. Like it's just nothing. I just don't understand why he became a target off of this so quickly. It's really weird. Very like preachy type, like, oh, I can't believe Dunkey could possibly think that he has the experience to publish video games. And it's like, I mean, dude, you're literally like basically mansplaining at him that he doesn't have. Like, how do you know that? Do you have the experience? You're saying you don't have the experience. So how do you know he doesn't have the experience necessary to run a game publisher? Like I just don't necessarily understand that either. So I found the whole thing really weird. I'm sure this will play out more over the coming days because this did just happen today. These things tend to play out over multiple days, maybe even through the weekend here. And this is the one that I think I might follow up with Montrell on next week. I'm very curious to see what his thoughts on this would be. Because honestly, from my perspective, good for Dunkey, you know, dude, like I think this is kind of a dream, I think, for a lot of people to be able to do this kind of thing after being a YouTuber, period, where that's your job. That's one thing. But going beyond that, doing that, and then being able to actually be a part of the industry that we love and make games, help get games made, that's a huge accomplishment. You know, that is a absolutely massive accomplishment. So in my opinion, I don't know. Congrats to Dunkey. I wish him luck with this. I hope it works out. I hope the games that they fund and make are great. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't have much more to say on it than that. I think I just find it just like weird. Like, come on, guys, stop jumping down the dude's throat for something that's honestly kind of cool, in my opinion. So, all right. That's all I got, guys. That's all I had for news written down today. So I think I'm gonna call it there. This is gonna be a relatively shorter show today, but that's kind of how these go when it's just me or just Montrell. They tend to be a little bit shorter. So, but we'll have a big meaty show for you next week when Montrell's back. I'm sure we will have a ton to talk about next week. So yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please like the show, review the show, and subscribe to the show on whatever feed you're listening to it on. And please share it with your friends. If you'd like to interact with either me or Montrell on Twitter, you can do so at iTrap4the for Montrell. That is the number 4, not the word. I'm at ThunderNuts01, and the show is at The Player's Take. If you'd like to send us a question, you can do so on Twitter, or you can send us an email to theplayerstake01@gmail.com. And that is going to be it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next week back with Montrell. All right, bye, guys.